you're going to find yourself getting passed by multiple cars, as I mentioned earlier on. So Newhoff in a very precarious situation, but he often finds himself in these places. Doesn't qualify as well as he races. Only up front, they are getting with Lee Aberdeen and Luca Varani, not very far apart at all here. But I just want to see how Alistair Haight deals with Marcello Kessler coming around the old hairpin. And I would say it's not the best decision they've ever made, just not having done that under the safety car, really.
Yeah, they're taking their pit stop strategies from Ferrari lately or something. What's going on?
In turn one, just too much gas on them, too much feet on the loud pedal, and unfortunately he's dropped him all the way down the order. But Philip Hammer is out in front by an 8.91 seconds. Oh, Dan Michael is a wall there, sir. And it definitely doesn't want to be hitting that earlier on as well. Difficult, the understeer is in the dirty air through that final corner because it's such a long corner and you get dragged off into the grass very easily. He'll have the slipstream down it towards the chicane. Peterson was briefly alongside, but that slipstream has saved him and kept him in third. Yeah, Varani now lost a little bit of time to Aberdeen, about half a second. Peterson is Oh, Pike's pushed more and forward up ahead. He's got out of line. It's now Pike. Good have a go. Werrell, don't push him off. He's in the championship fight. Jack Werrell chasing down Carl Jacklin. Further down, Rob Williams and Chris Barnes.
Sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly. Miller's just like dropping. He's not on second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
Moving on to the back end of Bill Jocelyn. So there's been a lot of movers and shakers in this first 2 laps here for race.
Absolutely serious racing league. Everybody's a lot have fun. Yeah, and it's all about the entertainment. So I hope everybody is enjoying themselves out there in the chat. We know that Ron is been enjoying himself watching. The Burger King machine's off into the grass a little bit there. Is that really bunching up now?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Sunday night, and it's time for the TSRC Sports Car Series Round 3. from Suzuka International Racing Course. I'm James Parfit. I'm going to be joined in the booth by Mr. Edward Hunter here this evening as well. Let's catch you up to date with the scores on the doors at the moment. In the GTPs, it's Jamie Nuttall out in front with Tom Davidson in second, Christoph Fuchs in third, Brian Pigmans is in fourth with Riyadi Rombouts in fifth, Will Bradford down in sixth. Liam Knott in seventh, Denny and Piper in eighth, Martin Blankenstein in ninth, Yannick Ruhoff in 10th, and Patrick Dean in 11th, with Andrzej Jelensky down in 12th, the last of the point scorers. In the GT3 field, it is Jack Southfield out in front on 31 points. He's 1 point ahead of Volkan Bakir, with Kieran Sharp sitting in third. Yannick de Hartog will be in fourth place. Ryan Walker fifth. Gwilym Hamlin in sixth. Jose Monteguedo in seventh. Liam Giles eighth. Patrick Eden down in ninth. Then Mario De Luca rounding out the top 10. Justin Zupan is in 11th. Timo Olmsted is 12th. Marcio Lopez 13th. Tiago Pino in 14th. Joe Pinder 15th. Jay Brooker 16th with Miguel Ferreira in 17th. While Hayden Miller is down in 18th place. Then below Hayden Miller is Thomas Carno in 19th, Pedro Campos down in 20th, Thomas Helmer in 21st with Mav Gardner, Joaquin Pino, Juan Rodriguez Cancel, Juan Antonio Franci, Grant Miller and David Barnes are the last of the point scorer. It is Suzuka, the Grand Prix circuit, 3.608 miles, 5.807 kilometers there as well. Welcome in, Phil, across the pond as always. Thank you so much for joining us here, and well, I think we could be in for a really good evening of racing. Let's bring Edward into the booth. Ed, welcome in, bud. How are you?
Yeah, it's great to be back, of course, after Spa-Francorchamps a week later, covering this third round of the championship at Suzuka. Like you say, such a fearsome, fast circuit that's really going to test all our GDP and our GD3 field as well. So we should expect a very, very tight, competitive race and lots of high-speed action, but also some of the more twisty technical sections like the Casio Triangle, that chicane that precedes the start-finish straight, can catch out the unwary, and a couple of hairpins like Spoon, and of course the fearsome S's at the beginning of the lap from turn 1 all the way through to about the Dunlop corner, essentially. That's a really, really fun piece of track to drive with all those high-speed direction changes as well, especially in the prototypes. But in the GD3 is a little bit more of a challenge, of course, with a little bit less downforce to play with, as we ride on board with Bradford sweeping through 130R, much less of an event corner than it used to be, although if you're trying to make a move into 130R, you can find it still has its moments. But yes, really, really great track, and it should be interesting to see, as ever, how the GDPs will deal with the GD3s when they come around to lap them, and of course how they all deal with each other.
Yeah, I think patience is going to be the main key here, and I think they are going to have to be a little bit more patient than normal. This circuit up through this SS section, or the Snake section if you want to call it that, can be quite tricky. Not the most easiest part of the circuit to be running too wide with a GT3 that wants to wash out. It will run wide every single time. It's not open to exception. Coming in through Dunlop, the long looping right-hander, again, you don't want to be on the outside of a GT3 because it will just keep coming and coming and coming. You're going into the Degnas, into Degna 1, not really an ideal opportunity to try and burst up the inside of somebody. You can get a short, sharp run up the inside of GT3s going into the hairpin here, but again, you've got to make sure that you're doing it on a straight part, not on the left-hander. Now you're going to follow the hairpin all the way around 200R. Again, you can go around the outside. The GT3s probably will hold the inside line, but again, they are going to force you around the outside. That will give you the inside for Spoon, which is the left-hander here. Again, a great opportunity, but again, you've got to be sensible. Whizzing down the backstretch, you shouldn't have no trouble. You should just be able to go straight the way past the cars all the way up until 130R. Once you get to 130R, you might want to hold off just a little bit here, because I can tell you one thing, not the most easiest corner to go by on that one. Can you get a dive in the Casio? You can, but you're going to have to risk it for a chocolate biscuit, and then you decide whether or not it's really worth it. Straight down again into turn 1. I really, to be honest with you, Ed, turn 1, From the last curve down into turn 1, I would probably make some overtakes. Spoon going down 130R into Casio, probably the most likely. The problem is what we perceive as likely, the drivers will do the complete opposite.
Yeah, like you say, it can be a narrow circuit in places, even at the best of times. But yeah, we even saw at Spa, remember, down the Kemmel Straight, wasn't it? Ian Pfeiffer and Christoph Fuchs were going side by side and having to negotiate the GT3 cars. It almost created a sort of mobile chicane for them down the middle of the straight, which is certainly not ideal because you've got to make a decision which side you're going to go very, very quickly in just a split second, essentially. So it often turns it into, especially for the prototypes, a different racetrack. And for the GT3s, you've got to avoid those prototypes as well as make sure you don't lose too much time for the people you're actually racing against, of course. But anyway, some decent laps on the board then after these first few runs with Jamie Nuttall, who of course was on pole at Spa but lost out to Tom Davidson. Again, he's a 10th, 0.17 quicker than Tom Davidson on the first runs. And in GT3, it's Kieran Sharp, who was just telling us about how he'd not really done that much practice and he wasn't expecting to do too well. He's set provisional pole 2 minutes, 182 ahead of William Hamling.
Yeah, Gwilym Hamlin there sitting in second place at the moment. Miguel Ferreira has got no time on the board at this moment, coming around the right left of Casio. For Miguel, is he going to be able to get something on the board very, very shortly? He's got to take it now as well. Let the car run. Ideally, you wanted to come down and hug the wall for Miguel Ferreira, but he does get the... he doesn't get anything on the board at the moment. So poor old Miguel there must have had a little bit of a trouble with an off-track count at some point because he ended up with no time. Same for Martin Blankensteiner in the GTPs. He's got no time on the board whatsoever as he's going in through the hairpin. I think it's imperative that these guys can get some form of banker in, Ed. I think this is the thing. They have to get something on the board, whether it's 5 seconds slower than the cars in their class, but it's still going to be quicker than the GT3s behind them.
Absolutely, and yeah, you never know. The session could get red flagged unexpectedly if something bizarre happens. So it's always nice to have that, just something on the board, like you say. And every lap you do, especially when you're one of the less experienced drivers, you're learning all the time, essentially. So a lot of the GT3 drivers that maybe just joining the championship for this round will certainly benefit every lap that they do, even if it's not necessarily fastest in every sector. Then, but impressive lap from Timo Omstede. In the number 22, the McLaren, he's just gone third fastest on 2 minutes, 0.7 then. So just 3 tenths or so slower than Kieran Sharp at the moment. But Bekirden is probably going to be the one to watch because he's the one looking to take that championship lead from Southall, who's of course not here tonight.
Yeah, exactly. Volkan Bekirden now. Keep an eye. And see, he is out on the race circuit. He's just actually coming down to the line, doing the right thing, hugging the wall. 2 minutes, 181. He's gone into pole position there for Volkan Bekirden. Great job taking it away from Kieran Sharp. 2 minute 168 for Bekirden, and then you got 2 minutes 0.18 for Kieran Sharp. So a great job from him there as well. An impressive time, literally 0.02 of a second quicker for Volkan Bekirden. I think that just basically sums up how much Volkan Bekirden's on it at this moment in time.
He certainly is. Your first run, and you're already just, he's a couple of hundredths essentially ahead of Kieran Sharp then. And so that really shows you the high that Bekirden's on after a lot of consistent results in the top 3 at the start of the season, which has put him where he is in the championship at the moment. But he's going to try and continue that trend as we look at Sharp trying to respond in his TSRC Porsche. But he's certainly got quite the job on him, as it looks like Nuttall is lighting up the timing screen, trying to pull away yet further from Tom Davidson. It's 1-1 between the two of them, so whoever beat it, they're sort of in a personal battle, the two Brits, aren't they, with one another in the GDP at the summit of that field. So whoever wins is basically knows they're going to take the initiative in the championship.
Yeah, Nuttall stayed where he is. Kieran Sharp also stayed where he is. No improvement.
Ooh, I think Sharp got closer. Look,
yeah, he moved up a little bit, but he's still not there.
Just 100th away, I think. Less than 100th, actually.
So, let's see how this one can pan out for Kieran Sharp. Bekirden is on a little bit a quicker one. Purple in sectors 2, green in 3. Green in 5. What's he going to be able to do coming into Casio now in that Audi? Volkan Bakirden keeping it to the right-hand side. Hug it as much as you can. Stay close all the way down. What is he going to be able to do as he comes over the line? 2-minute 1:33. He does improve. He goes and pulls, 400ths of a second out on Kieran Sharp at this moment in time. So a great job from him. What about Tom Davidson coming over the line? 1:43.742. But Thomas Kana in the Mercedes has got purple on the board as well there. So there you go. TRE Racing, evening all. Good evening, sir. Thanks so much and welcome in on that one. So a lot of action to come here as we wait for Thomas Kana to finish his lap. Where do you think the main flashpoints are going to be, Ed?
In the race, certainly. Turn 1 always is a little bit tricky, as it looks like Kana has run out of time, sadly, so he misses out to Liam Giles in the battle for 7th by, I think that's 100th of a second there, essentially. But very, very close margins, especially 4 different cars in the top 4 in GD3, which is very, very encouraging. Shows that there are quite a few evenly matched cars here in that class. But yeah, certainly the first corner is always going to be a bit tight going into the S's on the first lap. Spoon can sometimes be a bit tight as well and catch out the unwary. The Degners, if you get too far on the curbs, those can really bite you as well. The curbs at Suzuka can be surprisingly vicious. They certainly were in R Factor too. I think maybe they're a little bit more forgiving in iRacing by the looks of things. But yeah, certainly I'm expecting Davidson versus Nuttall Part 3 and Bakirden and Sharp. Let's hope Kieran has a much better chance of finishing on the podium this time. If he can just his connection holds and he can stay in the race essentially. Although William Hamling, we know that Lambo was quite quick in Spa as well. I wonder if that pace will translate here. So a couple of tricky corners. I think most of the moves you're going to see on the long straight into turn 1, and maybe 1 or 2 on the run into or out of 130R coming out of Spoon.
Right, let's have a look at the grid. It is Jamie Nuttall in first, Tom Davidson in second. We are the Rombouts in third, Brian Pigman's fourth, then Will Bradford in fifth, then Gergely Consabo in sixth, Patrick Dean in seventh, Martin Blankensteiner in eighth, then you've got Volkan Bakirden leading the GT3s with Kieran Sharp, Guillem Hamling and Timo Osted in behind that one. In 13th, it's Jose Monteguido, Quinton Van Wingarden in 14th, Liam Giles 15th, Thomas Kana 16th, Patrick Eden 17th, Marcio Lopez 18th, Juan Antonio Franzi in 19th, Miguel Ferreira in 20th, Pedro Campos 23rd, Grant Miller 22nd, Joaquin Pino in 23rd with Matt Gardner in 24th. Then we've got Matteo De Luca, Janko De Hartog, Melondi Gambushi in 27th place. We'll see. The last 3 don't seem to actually be on the grid. So it looks like we're not going to get Matteo De Luca, Janko De Hartog, or Melondo Lozi Gambushi on that one. So yeah, looks like we could be losing people before we start here. So let's see what goes on. Let's see what happens. And we are starting on that backstretch here, coming through Spoon. And then we're going to go on the run down the backstretch, down through 130R and Casio Triangle. How are really quickly, before we get started, how's the GTPs going to handle the GT3 traffic?
Well, good or badly, depending on how sensible they are, essentially. Especially when they first come up to them, when the GT3 field is still going to be quite bunched together. That's where you really need to make sure you don't trip over them. Suzuka, along with circuits like Hockenheim, which can be quite narrow in the stadium section, this is one of the toughest ones, essentially, for a prototype to deal with GT3 traffic then. So you're going to have to pick your moment, hopefully wait for the straight, but if you come upon them too quickly, you're going to have to do the move into the hairpin and hope that GT3 sees you in time, essentially.
Okay, well, let's see what goes on. Casio Triangle now. And the GTPs are going forward. Jamie Nuttall, Tom Davidson, Brian Pigmans, Wiardi Rombouts, Gergely Consabo, Will Bradford, Patrick Dean and Martin Blankensteiner. Pace car is not going in.
Davidson already taking the lead, it looks like, before the race started.
Well, we ain't doing that. We're going round again. So there we go. I believe this has happened before, isn't it?
I wasn't there at the first round, so you'd have to tell me.
I'm sure we've gone round again at... where was we on the first round, come to think of it, as well?
Silverstone?
Yeah, I'm sure we started on the back stretch and ended up doing another full lap, which is what we're doing again. So
That
clearly,
would suggest they're trying to get those free cars that missed the start in GD3 into the race.
I think it's probably just got something to do with the setup, to be blatantly honest, of the session. And then you got a minute and a half, a lap and a half of pace lap. So there we go. Quite surprised. I'll speak to Kieran about it and find out what the old deal is on that. But there we go. We've got another pace lap to go. Gives us enough time to talk here once more about these GTPs. Do you think you've got to be a special kind of driver to drive a GTP, Ed?
I think it's a skill. I think like a lot of driving skills is ones you can learn, but certainly it can be a bit more demanding because, like I was saying during the qualifying at Spa, when you asked me about the difference between driving a GDP and a GD3, it's a slightly trickier car to set up because you've got, especially at Suzuka, where it's got a lot of fast corners, but also very, very technical ones, like the two Degnas. You just see the field behind the safety car coming up to Degna 1 now. They demand a lot of commitment, especially in qualifying, but also in when you're trying to go either side of a GD3 at very, very short notice. So, short of like an open wheel car, these are pretty close in terms of performance compared to a lot, especially compared to the GD3s in particular, for instance. So it's a similar skill set, but of course you've got to add in. We're effectively looking at like I always say, it's a sort of sprint endurance event here, where it's like 45-minute race or so, depending, of course, on how long the safety car goes on for. For instance, that might take a couple of minutes off the overall race time. But yeah, you've got to make sure that you. The endurance isn't such a big demand. It's more just in case of making sure you can race cleanly and also lap relatively quickly in these sorts of cars. And some drivers are very, very good at it. And we see a couple of drivers like Blankensteiner and Patrick Dane, who's of course third in the championship, qualifying near the back of the GDP field. So they'll be having to pick off some of the drivers ahead of them that have qualified surprisingly well, like Gergely, Kun, Sabo, Bradford, Pigmans, and Rombouts from third through to sixth, of course, which I'll be targeting today. So, yeah, I think Nuttall and Davidson are probably the two standouts we've got in our GDP field. But that doesn't mean that somebody else couldn't give them a bit of a surprise and come from nowhere. And especially if one or both of them hit trouble, then it could open the race completely up. And you never know, Suzuka, like I say, that GD3 traffic can definitely play a part today.
Yeah, I do fully agree on that one. I managed to survive the Friday race while racing with COVID. There's TRE in that one. Well, nice. Isn't that just more like man flu nowadays? But there we go. Let's not get too political on the situation. But we'll see what goes on here and whether or not these guys are going to be able to get to the end of the race. It's going to be imperative when they come through the GT3s just how easy they are going to make it. Nuttall and Davidson. Well, if Davidson's going to be in behind, he's going to rush his overtakes on GT3s, and that can lead to a little bit of a disaster. But ladies and gentlemen, the lights are out on the pace car, so hopefully this time he's going to peel in. He does. Nuttall's going to lead that GTP field. How is this one going to go? When is he going to go? The start line's literally in front of you. He hasn't got long. He's got to go soon. I would have thought he's holding. Oh, dearie me, he's holding very, very long. Now Nuttall goes. Now you can see on that one, Davidson in behind, Rombouts, Pigmans, Gergely, Consabo is at one place. They're going almost 3 wide into turn 1. And it is Jamie Nuttall leading the way with Tom Davidson, with Rombouts, with Pigmans, with Consabo, who did clear Will Bradford. Now going into the GT3s, Kieran Sharp, it looks like he's already bolted. I'm a bit surprised he's allowed to take the start, considering Bakirden was on pole position. Have to check the rules on that one. I know there's nothing in iRacing that says the second place can't bolt when the green flag drops, but I am surprised Kieran Sharp did it in that way. I think that's a little bit sneaky for me, and I think he should have at least waited till you got down to the line before you start going past Vulcan Bakirden there, Mr. Sharp. I will have a chat with you a little bit later. But Nuttall leads the GTP. Wombouts is clipped with Pigmans there as well, and that is all because Tom Davidson, unfortunately, did this. Going up through the snake section, got it all wrong, and then unfortunately off the side of the circuit for Tom Davidson, and it looks like he's had another bout after that.
Could be some damage to that GDP then. But yeah, big mistake with Davidson when he had the fuel, the most amount of fuel in the car is probably going to be on that first lap, isn't it? And Davidson pushing that a little bit too hard to keep up with Nuttall. He drove so brilliantly in Spa, didn't he? And now his race has had an early setback, and it looks like Blankensteiner, who was just trying to back right out of it into the first corner, wasn't he, James? He also seems to have hit trouble as well.
Yeah, it looks like Davidson's called it a day there as once more unfortunately for Tom Davidson. We are trying to get back to live pictures here. Not entirely sure why it's deciding to not send me back to live, but I tell you what, we'll do it this way. And
how about I fill while you sort that out then? I was just going to say about. Okay, well, I was just going to say about Sharp jumping Bakid in there. I have to sort of disagree with you. Oh, we see a little bit of debris being cleared there, and Patrick Dane also going into the pits to presumably repair some damage there, so not good news.
It's a contact with Blankensteiner.
Ah, well, that explains that. And big crash in the background with the GD3s. It looked like Liam Giles hitting trouble, and there's what happened to Blankensteiner and Dane.
Go off together. That's very bizarre.
That's just coming out at 200 wasn't it? Into Spoon.
There was contact there, unfortunately. But then you've got Quinton Wingarden, Liam Giles, and Patrick Eden all having a moment on that curb. Big
Mercedes just lost it on his own, didn't he, Liam Giles?
Yeah, and then unfortunately it all goes a little bit Tom for Liam Giles on that one. And once again, we're not able to get back to live pictures quick enough, so just bear with us on that one. Yeah, poor old Tom Davidson out of the race already. Didn't last long whatsoever, and yeah, that's not a good start for Tom.
No, that's certainly going to hurt his chances of beating Jamie Nuttall in the championship lead that they were tied for going into this one. Let's take the pressure very much off of the shoulders of Jamie Nuttall and the Cracked Racing Cadillac, with Rombouts now promoted up to second, and Kun Sabo, who had a little moment on the first lap of his own that he was able to save, I noticed, as he's under attack from Brian Pigmans. That puts the Hungarian into third then, but Pigmans is it was a British 1-2 and then a Dutch 3-4, wasn't it? And Kun Sabo's been able to split them, like you said, at the start of the race. So it looks like Pigmans is very, very intent on trying to get two Dutchmen back onto the podium here to try and give Jamie Nuttall a bit of a hard time up front. But yeah, for Nuttall, I think as long as he keeps doing what he's doing, because he's lapping like 9/10 per lap quicker than Rob Bouts behind, I think he's looking very, very comfortable with that 2.5 second lead he's got at the moment.
Yeah, I can't see. To be fair, I could probably write Jamie Nuttall's name down as the winner, to be blatantly honest on that one. I don't think he's going to be taken on that. Obviously seems to have a different opinion on the Kieran Sharp situation.
Well, I was just trying to be different and play devil's advocate, I guess, and also because I like Kieran. But it looked to me, my perspective is we see Dane, I think, still in the pit lane, so I think we can safe to say he's out of the race as well as Tom Davidson. But it looked to me like Sharp was just a little bit quicker on the trigger, or the throttle pedal, as it were, rather than the trigger, and Bakirden maybe was caught a little bit napping there. You saw when Jamie Nuttall did the start in GDP, he was waiting very, very late to go, and I wonder if Bakirden was trying to do a similar thing and end up waiting slightly too long, and Kieran Sharp thought, well, I'll just get the race going then, shall I? And Bakirden was sort of not caught with his pants down, but certainly slightly not on the ball there when he needed to be.
Yeah, I think that begs the question of should he have gone over the start-finish line for Kieran Sharp.
It is quite early at Suzuka.
Well, the problem is where you would have expected it to be, but it's not actually on the rolling start. The finish line for the time is early, but the actual start-finish line is further down. So if we pick up on 6th place man, Tom Davidson is still running. So what we would normally presume, now this is where the finish line is and the timing finish line is, which is coming round the corner just about
after DRS
there.
Yeah.
Just there. But where he actually started was here, just where Tom Davidson is now, where the box is. So in hindsight for Bakirden, I'm wondering if he thought that was the same start box that he should have been going at and not on the line. So Kieran Sharp is obviously gone. Now there is actually no rule in iRacing that says if you're in a multi-class race, when the GTPs go and you've left a gap, there's no reason you can't go. It's not a jump start. It's nothing, right? But some leagues do purposely put that in and say that when the GTPs go, the GT3s cannot go until they go over the line, not on iRacing's green light. So
yeah, I think if there's a loophole there, I think it's legitimate for Kieran Sharp to exploit that. As we see, actually, Hamling is the fastest man in class right now, just 7/10 behind. So the Lamborghini working well for the Luxembourg driver. Like we said, we saw him so strong at Spa, just missing out on the podium, I think, in the end. And now he's well and truly on it, and giving Sharp and Bekirden a bit of a hard, and Bekirden's having a bit of a hard time passing Sharp. He just looks that little bit fast. He's matching his lap times. But I sense that Bekirden feels he could go a lot quicker if he didn't have Sharp in front of him. And this is bringing Hamling and maybe even Olmsted, if he can just keep Van Wingerden behind them, then maybe he's got a chance as well.
yeah, let us know on YouTube chat what your opinion is on the starts of the GT3s. I'm sure there'll be Volkan Bekirden with an opinion, Kieran Sharp with an opinion. But however, we have got Volkan Pino in the pit lane. We've got Patrick Dean in the pit lane. We've got Blankenstein out. De Luca, Gambushi and Hartog did not take to the start. We've got Francis out. Tom Davidson is the last of the runners. So we have lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 4 during the race, 3 before we'd even got underway, and Tom Davidson is the last car running, so we'll see how he gets on. The battles at the moment, Gergely Consabo with Brian Pigmans locked in behind him. Then you've got Kieran Sharp, Bekirden and Hamlin, and you've got Timo Osted, Quinton Van Wingarden, Jose Monteguedo. They're having a nice little battle in the GT3s at this moment in time, but Pigmans is there with Consabo, and he's trying to get hold of the Gergely Consabo, the man from Hungary. Going to be interesting to see what Pigments is going to be able to do, especially as they're going to start weaving through traffic shortly.
Yep, that's certainly going to mix things up a bit. And again, it's another sort of situation where you really need to be... there's a bit of cooperation needed from the GT3 field, but you also got to make sure that you don't leave the opportunity for like you spend too much time being held up by a car and then you see the driver you're immediately fighting with. In the case of Kunsabo, Pigmans, you don't want to see Pigmans just flying around the outside of you while you're being held up at the apex by one of the GT3 cars. So the GT3 cars at the back will know they're being caught here, and they're definitely be looking in the wing mirrors, or you would hope they would anyway. So Kunsabo has just got to make sure he doesn't fall at this early hurdle here. As for Tom Davidson, a little bit further down the pack, as we look at Nuttall just picking off a nut. That must be is that Pedro Campos? I think he's just lapped there, so he's going to catch up to Mav Gardner now. But yeah, it was interesting to look at Davidson. He's starting to lap similar lap times to Jamie Nuttall, so he should. Davidson's got plenty of clear track, so he may be a lap down, but he could catch Will Bradford before the end of this race, depending on how many of the mid-runners in GDP hit trouble. So for Davidson, it's all about damage limitation now. For Nuttall, it's all about not tripping up over these GT3 cars, essentially.
Yeah, don't forget they've got the pit stop to make as well. 65% fuel for GTPs, 50% for GT3s. Blimey, he's all the way round on his steering wheel to get that car round that hairpin. Is he coming in for Marcio Lopez? Just goes and puts a lap on him. Thomas Carner will be next, and then we're getting into the nitty-gritty of the GT3s. Jose Monteguedo, Quinton Van Wingarden, Thomas Almstad, Guillaume Hamlin, Volkan Bekirden, and Kieran Sharp. All of these guys are at the front end. It might work out actually for Mr. Nuttall here. Looking at it, he should get 130R, depending on how many cars he can get going down into Casio. If he's going to be able to get any, he needs to pull that car left. Now he's got to pull it right. Oh, that's it. Well, good driving there from Jamie Nuttall. He stays in behind the cars, but he should clear most of these going down the start-finish line.
Yeah, very sensible. He doesn't need to take too many risks, although he does put the left-hand tyres onto the grass. They're so easy to understeer off into the wall, or do a Timo Glock, I think, as it's somewhat colloquially known after. I think he did that in 2009 and had to miss a race, which is why Kimi Kobayashi became a Formula 1 driver. There's Hamling just having to get out of the way, and now the problem is Bekirden and Sharp are fighting each other for the lead. Neither of them wants to lose time fighting with letting Nuttall through, essentially, on the lead lap here. But look at this. Jamie's really got to pick his moment. There goes Bekirden, and now Sharp. He goes around the outside of him too. And there's another GT3. The GT3 field is also about to lap here as well. That must be Pinho, I think, just in front of it.
Yeah, I think it's working. Ooh.
Oh, he's gone off as well and swerved right in front of the GT3 leaders. So not the greatest awareness from Pinho there. And oh, he's held up Kieran Sharp there.
Yeah, welcome Bekirden now. They're going 3 wide. Bekirden's going to have the inside to the hairpin. Pinho seems a little bit more... He nearly hit the GTP there of Rombouts as well. Now this is where the racing really gets undergoing, because behind Rombouts is Consabo, behind Kieran is Sharp, and in behind that as well, Timo Gullum-Hamling's in there. Timo Osted is in there. There's another cracked race in GTP. That's Will Bradford in the mix. Pinho's still in there for him. There's a lot of cars coming through all at the same time. Bradford manages to get past Hamlin. Sharp lost the lead of the GT3s to... Oh, yeah. Oof. Well, that could have been worse for Bradford there when that overtake on Kieran Sharp. Little bit on the hairy side there.
Yeah, Bradford taking a lot of risks to try and catch up to Pigman's a couple of seconds ahead of him, isn't he? And not necessarily, in fact, he may have lost a bit of time overall there, but all of this is absolutely bringing William Hamling into play here. But for Kieran Sharp, certainly Pinho's not going to be on his Christmas card list at the end of the year after that one, I think, because that was a little bit messy from Pinho. Not intentional by any means. I think he just got completely spooked by Nuttall, went off at Egner 1 and 2, and then rejoined right in front of Kieran Sharp and just halted his momentum there. But of course, for Bekirden, he'll be thinking, right, I've got my own back now after clumsily letting Sharp through at the start.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? After being jumped at the beginning there for Guillem Hamlin, it's now going to be
Bekirden.
a little, jumped at the beginning so for Bekirden. I think he's now going to be looking at sort of saying, well, you know, karma has its ways, and that might have been one of them.
Now he can unleash that pace he's got as well.
Yeah, Tom Davidson is mixing it up in the GT3. He is technically 12th overall. He's just taking them wide. That's Monteguedo there. That is Pinho being lapped by Monteguedo. There's no point flashing. You're a lap down, dear sir. I don't want to point the obvious out, but it is actually your job to remove yourself from an equation where you shouldn't have really been involved in. So Davidson currently making his way through, 10th overall. He's still a lap down on the GTPs in front of him, but we do have pit stops on the horizon as well. So can Davidson get himself back in the top 5 with a pit stop cycle, do you reckon?
Well, it's an interesting. Obviously, he pit at the end of the first lap for heavy repairs. He might have added a bit more fuel in, so he might be able to go slightly longer than a lot of the leaders. But that might give him a little bit of an offset on tyres in the second half of the race, at least. But it is a big ask. He's got like 2 minutes, 12 seconds to make up to Bradford. I wouldn't be surprised if the pace that he's got, at times he's been able to lap a second or maybe a second and a half quicker than Bradford and Pigments in front of him. But of course, it depends on how quickly he clears the traffic here as he just gets in front of the GT3 leaders there, who don't give him any trouble at all. The Sharp is now tucked in right behind Bekirden, and he's going to make a move into the first corner, but he gets blocked off by Volkan Bekirden then. And here we go. Sharp has again got the inside for the exit into turn 2 and into the S as they go. And surely Bekirden's going to swipe across, and indeed he does so, and tries to back Kieran Sharp into William Hamling's Lamborghini.
Yeah. That's where he really, really wants to put him for Bekirden. He needs Sharp under attack from Hamlin to give him that little bit of a break, to give him that little bit of a, well, sir, you go and now deal with him. Because for Guillem Hamlin, he wants to make his way forward, but it's just Sharp's there. And at the moment, if Hamlin's not quite got the pace in that Lambo, he's not going to get near Kieran Sharp. And Sharp's not going to clear Bekirden. It's only going to be if we have traffic like what we've got now in front of us, whether or not that's going to cause a problem. I believe that is Grant Miller. Nope, fair play to Grant. He gets himself well out of the way. But Bekirden now he's got to try and escape. The problem is he can't escape. He's got long straightaways. Draft plays into effect. There's always Kieran Sharp's going to have something to hang on to. So it's going to be interesting to see what Bekirden can do here and whether or not Sharp stays in behind him going into the pit stop cycle.
Yeah, but we've seen historically as well in iRacing that the Audi is a pretty nippy car in a straight line. The problem is for him, of course, the Porsche and the Lambo they aren't particularly that much slower, essentially. So it's a small advantage he's got on that slipstream that Sharp's getting is certainly going to negate that. We did see Bekidin very, very quick, but not quite able to get alongside Sharp before that back marker intervention then from Pinho then. But Bekidin, it's just a sense of, if Sharp is looking in his mirrors, like you say, at Hamling, then that sort of frees up Bekidin, and we're starting to see it now on this lap. Actually, Bekidin has got just that half a second maybe that he needs to not worry too much about Kieran Sharp, and maybe that's the break that he needed to sort of start to pull away here. But I wouldn't count out Kieran Sharp just yet, especially with Hamling nowhere near close enough to mount a late braking maneuver into turn 1.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily, I would count Sharp out, but I wouldn't count out Hamlin for making that move either. You know, for Hamlin, he's been faster than Sharp that time around 4 tenths. He lost 5 on Sharp was faster on lap 7. Hamlin was literally a second faster than Sharp on lap 6. So there's pace in that Lambo, but it depends if Hamlin can string it all together over 1 lap to close the gap over Kieran Sharp. That's going to be, I think, the thing, as we've got less than 30 minutes to go here, and pit stops. Are they going to cover each other off? Is there going to be some dynamic overcut-undercut situation that we're going to see a change in the GT3 lead?
Yeah, the undercut can be quite powerful at Suzuka unless you pit slightly too early and you end up coming into traffic from those yet to pit, essentially, because then it can absolutely backfire on you very, very easily at Suzuka. So sometimes the overcut might be preferable because it just reduces that chance of you getting stuck in traffic. Although with the amount of different cars on different laps here and different classes, you might sort of be better off just focusing on the people around you rather than trying to, because there's precious little clean bits of track to sort of come out into, essentially, if you're thinking strategically. But yeah, it's certainly one of the slightly slower pit entries as well, so there's certainly time to be gained if you cut the pit entry fine. You can also very easily get it wrong and give yourself a pit lane speeding penalty, which nobody will want, that's for sure. So yeah, if you're Hamling though, you might be thinking about rolling the dice and going for that early pit stop. As we look at Montegudo, he's actually lost 2 places, I think, on this lap to Van Wingerden and Kana, who've both gone up to 5th and 6th respectively.
Yeah, he went off the side of the circuit for Jose Montegudo in that Porsche. Oh, you're on the curb there, sir. That's never going to work. Oh, straight away into the wall you go.
That's exactly what happened to Liam Giles, isn't it?
And that was just literally because he rode the curb coming through 130R, and well, that's the end result. It's put him straight into the pit lane. So we'll keep an eye and see where he comes out. Let's see if we can get this back live again. Oh, this is an error that I really don't want to keep having to do this for, but it seems to be the only way to get it back to live pictures. Hamlin is still under pressure from Sharp. And Sharp still trying to pressurise Bekirden, but he's got Hamlin closer to him than he is to Bekirden at this moment in time.
Yeah, and don't forget about Timo Omsted, just holding off Van Wingerden by 9 tenths of a second, and he's only about 2 seconds behind this battle as well. So the lap time's pretty similar at the moment. He's just set a personal best, Omsted, that was less than a tenth behind Hamling's lap time then. So if they all start to congregate, we could tantalizingly end up with a 5 or maybe even 6 car battle for the overall win, depending on how the strategies play out here. I'd be very surprised if we do get that, but at the moment, I would say all 6 of those are still just about in contention.
Yeah, I believe so as well. Where is Davidson? He's now back on to the back end of the GTP field, albeit 1 minute 59 seconds behind Will Bradford. But we are back at least, so that's all good on that one. But yeah, for Tom, not the greatest of starts, and he's going to try and have to muscle his way through the field. Determination, though, to be blatantly honest with you, Ed, because most people, to be honest with you, would have quit after that one.
Yeah, I think we thought that he might have done, but with the championship at stake, he wants to sort of make the best of a bad situation and sort of sneak as many points out of this one as he can get. You never know, if Jamie Nuttall does exactly what we just saw Tom Davidson do at a future round in this championship, then these points that he's getting today could be absolutely critical. But it's certainly a tough job to catch up the just under 2 minutes to Bradford and Pigmans, essentially. But if anyone can do it, it certainly is Tom Davidson, given his performance at Spa and given how close he was to Jamie Nuttall in qualifying and the fastest laps that he's continuing to set. He's lapping about 0.2 quicker than Nuttall at the moment, and significantly quicker than Bradford and Pigmans.
Yeah. But can he get there?
Well, it depends. We're about halfway through the race, and the progress is. But the problem is, he needs to keep taking like 5 seconds. Every 2 laps or so, he needs to be taking at least 5 or 6 seconds out of them to basically make up the time. And we don't know exactly how far he can go on the fuel as well, and whether that's going to make a big difference too. So his best chance is to sort of hope that those ahead hit trouble as well, lapping the traffic. But knowing that there's only about 5 GDPs on the lead lap, and they're all pretty far apart from each other, they might well take it easy lapping the GD3s, especially as they become a bit more spread out. And that's definitely not going to be what Tom Davidson will want to hear. So he's just got to hope that something happens he can take advantage of. As it looks like Rombounce has dropped 7 seconds now behind Jamie Nuttall, and Kun Sabo briefly got within a second of him now.
Yeah, we've also had Patrick Eden go and crash, and unfortunately, that's going to be...
Coming out of 130R again, into 130R. Whoa.
Yeah. Straight into the wall.
With a Tokyo drift and a Matsuzaka Mi Prefecture slide, I would say.
It's one of them things, isn't it? You know what I mean? For Patrick Eden, unfortunately, you can see it happening. You just can't do anything about it. We are on about Gurgly Consabo, still fighting their way through. That's the McLaren of Grant Miller.
Miller lost it in 130R there as well. They did well to avoid him there. He looked very twitchy.
Well, not a lot of time remaining. No pit stops currently at the moment, Ed. And really, the main battles are taking place at the front of the GT3 field.
Yep, certainly they are. It's still very, very tense between that leading trio, isn't it, of Bakid and Sharp Hamling. But as we see, look how much Kun Sabo is being held up here by, that must be Pedro Campos, of course. And he just came upon him exactly the wrong moment on the apex coming out of turn 1 and 2 there. And that's allowed Rombounce to gain about half a second at the very least, maybe even slightly more than that, as the gap goes up to 1.6 seconds. Luckily, though, Pigman's just a little bit too far back, so it's still stalemate in the battle for second here in GDP.
Yeah. Nobody really made a move forward there after Consabo got held up from the GT3s. This is, I think, the moment where everything starts settling down, isn't it? We're waiting for the pit stops to really send us into chaos here, because I think that's what we're going to get. By the time these guys are pitted, it's just going to be all a little bit messy, and I believe there's Jamie Nuttall going through the leaders again of the GT3, and he gets through. Is he going to clear Bakirden? Yep, without any problems. This is kind of the lull, Ed, I think, before we get into the pit stop cycle, to open it up into something that we expect it to be by the time it gets to the end of the race.
Yeah, definitely the calm before the storm. They're all trying to see who's going to blink first and go into the pits, especially in that GD3 battle you see between these top 3. And it looks like Hamling's just starting to lose a little bit of touch with the back of Kieran Sharp. The gap extends to just over a second here, but certainly Hamlin can easily get back in with a little bit of slipstream. That is around the outside of that must be was the Sabo losing third to Pigman.
He's in the pit lane.
There we go. So he's been the first to pull the trigger then.
Yeah, Timo Osted has also gone in, so I guess they've decided to take the plunge early, as we've got.
And Olmsted was 4th as well, so that puts the pressure on our 3 leaders, isn't it?
But they've got to have a clean in lap, haven't they? Clean in lap, just basically make sure that you can go as fast as you can to get that car in, because it's Olmsted, although was near them, he was still 2.5, 3 seconds back at the time. So they've got that time, but they can't afford to do anything and allow anybody from different classes, we already run bouts, to hold him up in any way. You know, they've got to let him go as soon as possible. You can't hold him up because it will cause a problem.
Yeah, certainly. And by the way, look at Kun Sabo, who's come out about just under 90 seconds ahead of Tom Davidson, and that shows you how long the repair job was and the scale of the job that Davidson's got ahead of him, because certainly he's going to have to put in some very, very quick laps to get in the pit window of Bradford and Pigmans here before the pit stops happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Be very, very interesting to see. I'm so interested to see where this man's going to finish. I don't know if he's going to be on the lead lap, but he's closing in at quite a quick rate of knots. So I'm going to be interested to see where Davidson gets on and whether or not he's got to go into the pit lane again. Bekierden, however, is now opening up the wheels of that Audi. He's 1.3 seconds away from Quillam Hamlin. And Kieran Sharp, of course. Hamlin's a little bit further back than that. But, you know, for Bekierden, as soon as he got out in the open, he was gone. And as I say that, Kieran Sharp comes into the pit lane.
Interesting. I thought Hamlin might have been the first to respond there, but it's Sharp from second that's decided to roll the dice here. So this is crunch time for Volkan Bekierden. He's got to absolutely set a blistering in-lap here if he wants to hold on to that lead, because Sharp on those fresh tyres is a big threat now, as Will Bradford also comes in from the middle of the GDP pack.
Yeah, Kieran Sharp, Marcel Lopez is in there. Bradford's now in the pits, so it's going to bring Davidson into play. However, Davidson has got a long way. It's going to be the gap from Davidson to Bradford. I think Bradford's going to be on his way out, which he already is, to be blatantly honest with you. So Davidson's not going to get there at all. But for Marcio Lopez is in the pits. Kieran Sharp. Ooh! Thomas Kahler unfortunately goes round. Kieran Sharp comes out fifth in class at the moment, Ed.
Yeah, big slide for Kana, just coming into the S's, I think, from fourth position. So that shows you the GD3s that have stayed out are starting. Some of them are really starting to struggle on those tyres then, which makes sense because we have gone past half distance then. So it looks like a lot of people trying to go a little bit longer and then push those tyres in the final stint to set some quicker lap times then. Certainly that's got to be the strategy for Tom Davidson, because I don't think, even pitting for repairs, the fuel tanks is literally not big enough, I don't think, for him to really have just gone to the end after making that early stop, though. But certainly he might put a bit more fuel in, so he might be able to do a couple more laps than the rows around him. But I have a feeling it's not going to make a huge amount of difference in the end. I think, like you say, it might be a case of he's looking to finish sixth unless something happens ahead of him, essentially, which is a little bit difficult to predict, of course, because you don't want to you wouldn't wish misfortune on any of these drivers, really. As we look then at the Mercedes, just starting to close on the McLaren in front of it. So this is Liam Giles fighting with Olmsted. So Olmsted, of course, who's pit and I think gotten past Giles.
Yeah, Olmsted did pit, and Giles
is 4.8 behind
pitted.
Sharp as well.
Yeah.
Olmsted.
So he come out 4.8 seconds. It's going to be now where Kieran Sharp is. He's coming into Casio. The GT3
and Hamlin
all in. Wingard and Kana as well. Is
going to be close.
You need to get a move on, son. You need to get a move on very quickly. There as well. Kieran Sharp did do it. Yeah, he did. And Hamlin nearly got him as well. So for Bekierden, very slow pit stop compared to Kieran Sharp. 3 seconds slower than Kieran Sharp's.
Yeah, and again, I think, much like the start, Sharp got into the pits first, didn't he? And sort of controlled the strategy, and Bekierden and Hamlin were having to respond then. And Bekierden's very lucky, actually, that Hamlin didn't jump him there because he got very close to him. Now, once again, he's got to focus more on breaking away from the car behind before he can focus on battling Kieran Sharp then. So really tense, fantastic freeway fight once again at the front of GD3, and it looks like this is the way it may go all the way through to the finish, with Olmsted just 2.5 seconds behind them. So I think Timo might not quite have the natural pace to be able to challenge for the podium, but we'll have to see if anyone makes a desperate move for the lead here.
Yeah, can't see it myself. I think Volkan Bekierden's going to just try and get as close to Kieran Sharp as he can. That 3 second extra pit stop literally has just killed him, to be blatantly honest with you. Joaquin Pino is in the pits here. He's a lap down in the GT3s. We already Rombo and Brian Pigmans. That's going to come out right in front there. Pino's going to be right in front of them. So
there's Kunsebo right behind Rombouts now for second. So he's got big undercut here, is Kunsebo.
Yeah, nice little battles developing.
Yeah, so Kunsebo, this is where he's really got to strike, where he's still got the advantage here, while Rombouts is just getting back up to speed here through the S's then. So he's got to put himself in a good position to maybe challenge coming out of Spoon, maybe into the hairpin if he can catch Rombouts unawares. But crucially, Kunsabo was comfortably able to hold on to third from Brian Pigmans there, because he got the massive undercut on both Rombouts and Pigmans.
Yeah, they've got 14 minutes on the clock, 1:43 lap times. And can Gergely Kunsabo get any closer to Wiari Rombouts? Jamie Nuttall's in the pit lane. I think he should come in and out in front of Rombouts. I don't think Rombouts is going to get close. I think it's still going to be quite a bit of a gap as he goes into Spoon. The left-hander now taking a little bit, getting it slowed down into second, up into third, onto the curb we go, and whizzing all the way through. Nuttall still in the pit lane, and Wiari Rombouts is trying to break away from Gergely Kunsabo. He's opened up 1.3 seconds from Rombouts there. GT3 not in an optical position on that one, and Nuttall is out down the pit lane already and opens up that gap again over Wiari Rombouts. Kunsabo lost a little bit of time there, 1.26 seconds. What's going on with Hamlin and Bekirden? Well, they're still chasing each other down, and Bekirden cannot, at the moment, break that 1 second gap up to Kieran Sharp here, Ed, and he hasn't got long left now to do it.
Yep, so the pressure's starting to build here for Bekirden. Like you say, after that slow stop has completely changed the race. Instead of coming out in the lead, he's come out very much at the mercy, or lack thereof, of Guillaume Hamling's Lamborghini then. And Hamling is really taking advantage of that slipstream from the back of that very quick Audi to sort of stay in this race, essentially. So for Hamling, he's just got to go for it here. For Bekirden, he's just got to hope that he's got the pace to maybe challenge Sharp in these closing stages. But like you say, on lap 19 here, 32 minutes elapsed out of 45. We are starting to rapidly run out of time here with just 12 minutes to go.
Yeah, we'll see what goes on with the lap times this time around. Sharp registers. What about Bekirden there? Sharp is slower than Bekirden, 2 tenths for Volker Bekirden, quicker. Wonder where he is pulling in this time. Is it going to be through the first sector? Nope, Sharp was quicker through sectors number 1. So Bekirden's fine in 2 tenths. But 2 tenths at 2 minutes a lap, when we've only got 6 laps to go, ain't going to be enough. He's going to be about 3 to 4 tenths short.
Yeah, he's very, very good in Sector 2. He gained about 3 tenths, I think, in Sector 2 alone on that previous lap. But yeah, the other sectors, it's very much nip and tuck, isn't it? Although I might be looking at a different screen to you. But yeah, only 72 thousandths, not 2 tenths then. But still, it all makes a difference. It all adds up cumulatively, I guess, over the course of a lap. And Hamling, I think, is really only staying in this at the moment because of that slipstream from the back of Bekirden, which is why he was a tenth quicker than Sharp on the previous lap, because Sharp, of course, has got nobody giving him a tow up front then. So it's all pretty much stalemate at the moment as we look. Who is this?
Pigmans.
Pigmans, yeah. So he's dropped off a long way behind Kunsabo now. Is that because of a spin at the hairpin? Or a half spin? Just about collect that one up, though.
Yeah, he did. He managed it there as well. What did you do not long after that, though, mind you? He also did something else here. Oh, you're going to hit the curb. What did you do on that one then?
Casio triangle, I would guess.
Oh!
Swung the rear around, and he didn't really get on the brakes. He's having to awkwardly reverse to get the car facing the right way again. He sort of just almost floored the throttle, didn't he, when he saw he was going around to try and do a 360. He only did a 180, sadly.
No. At least he's still out on the racetrack, I suppose.
That's true. That's true.
For him,
it's not a bad place to spin, is it? The Casio Triangle, because it's such a slow corner.
Yeah, and that's the thing. He's got time. What did Gergely Kunsabo do here? Ooh. That's going to put that back in round, I think. Oh, is that going to be... Oh!
Oh, please don't tell me that was Pinho, or was it his teammate?
Miguel Ferreira.
It was Ferreira, okay. Oh, Ferreira just lost it coming off the curb.
Yeah. Coming off the
really
curb.
Unfortunate. Straight
into Kunsabo there. Kunsabo is going to be not overly impressed with that one. But, yeah, Gergely Kunsabo. Brad Davidson is in the pits. Kunsabo's still running, which I'm quite surprised about. The question will be whether or
Tough
not
suspension.
whether or not he's got damage. Is that steering right?
Well, Pigmans will be kicking himself after
looks
that,
pretty clear.
because if he'd kept it pointing in the right direction on that previous lap, even with that massive up in the air moment, he was about 7 seconds slower than Kinsapo was Pigmans. So that really shows you 2 errors worse than 1 big error that, in fairness, wasn't really Kinsapo's fault. Nothing he could have done to avoid that one.
No, nothing really at all, to be blatantly honest. Miguel Ferreira, stay off the curbs, I suppose, could be the easiest way through that. The gap up front in the GT3s is 1.3 seconds, 13 seconds in the GTP for Jamie Nuttall and we are the Rombouts. Gurgly Consabo back behind that as well by 20 seconds behind Nuttall. So let's bring you up the intervals to the drivers in front. You can see 8 seconds from Consabo to Wildbat from Rombouts, 6 seconds from Pigmans, 2.8 to Bradford, 1 lap to Davidson. And then we got the
Davidson's
GT3s.
pit again then.
It's a second year. He can just come in 0.5 per Gwilym Hamlin, and then it's a little bit more spread out behind in the GT3s. These leaders of the GT3s kind of providing all the action at the moment.
And it's a good thing they are, because it's certainly livening up the race and giving us a very, very tense battle to watch. It's been very, very strategic. Only really one moment where the back markers interfered and Bekirden was able to get that move. He'll be hoping lightning strikes twice, essentially, but Kieran Sharp will be very determined not to let the opportunity slip here out of his hands. And Hamling there is ready to take advantage of any error Volkan Bekirden makes here. So the man second at the moment, looking to take the lead in the championship, is sort of in a bit of a sandwich here, and all the pressure is going to be on Volkan.
But is he going to be looking back, do you think?
Oh, certainly. I think with the job that Hamling's doing today, you can't really leave the door open for Hamling while just going for a fastest lap here. So he can't get comfortable. He can't really get into a rhythm, which is often quite a handy thing to have around Suzuka, where you just churning out the laps, getting slightly quicker each time you go, and it's very, very difficult to do when you've got someone breathing down your neck and you can't just take the corner at the pace you want, really. So you're constantly looking over your shoulder, you're not looking in front of you, and that's not conducive to quicker lap times. That's conducive to defensive driving.
Yeah. Now, the interesting thing, though, is I haven't seen Hamlin close enough to force Bekirden into defensive driving. I haven't seen Bekirden having to make a defensive move.
They still keep gaining a couple of attempts, don't they, each lap, and Sharp occasionally is able to fight back, but he's still got that buffer at the moment with, let's see, about 7 minutes left to go, 8 minutes.
Yeah, just coming in, well, we're on 39 minutes and 45, so 6 minutes to go. And Bekirden just doesn't look defended, doesn't look defensive against Hamlin, but I don't know if that's Hamlin knowing that if they fight, Sharp's going to get away. Where if they don't fight at the moment, they're slowly, and I will say slowly, closing him in. You know, Sharp last time 59.7, Bekirden 2 minutes 0.08. So not a massive difference in time. So if Hamlin starts fighting with Bekirden now, Sharp's going to be on his bike. So they're better off staying where they are at the moment and just following each other to see whether or not they can actually get close to Sharp, which they are doing through that first sector, but then the rest of the lap, they seem to just be losing a little bit of the 3 tenths that they're gaining in sector 1.
I agree with you, but I'm not sure Hamling will see it that way when there's a position on the podium up for grabs here. I think a racing driver, they tends to be, if they see someone they're fighting in front of them, they're going to think, oh, if there's an opportunity here, I'm going to go for it. But Hamling, like you say, he's not done anything too silly, has he? He's just tucked in that slipstream and taken full advantage of it so far, and he's got the pace in the corners to really stay with Bekirden. And as we see, that must be a Kunsabo or it's a Rombout, sorry, just lapping the GD3 leaders then, as he's 15.6 behind Jamie Nuttall, who's done a really, really strong job from pole and really banished memories of that mistake from Spa then. So very, very important drive for Jamie Nuttall up front. Also important, this battle for the win in GD3. And again, Hamling gets a decent exit. He's closing ever so slightly in the slipstream of Bekirden, but as you say, unlikely to make a move into 130R.
Yeah, Sharp's losing time now. Gap's down to 7 tenths. It was out at 8 to 9, touching a second. It's now 7 attempts. Bekirden's faster in 1, 2, 4 and 5. Sharp faster in 3. But the offset against Sharp's fastness in 3 is not going to cover what Bekirden's just pulled out of him over that lap head.
Yeah, and looks like Kun Sabo is going to lap them at a really awkward moment here into turns 1 and 2. So Hamling might have a bit of trouble behind him as the GDP decides to go all the way around the outside and always not given enough room. So Hamling so focused on his own battle that he's starting to annoy the Hungarian behind him.
Ah, that's not annoying, Ed. That's a GT3 washing out and the GTP not anticipating it as he went through into turn 1.
He was flashing his lights is all I'm saying.
Yeah, that's all right. I flash my lights when I'm in my car. You know, not that anybody pays us a blind bit of attention. We've still got Grandma doing 30 miles an hour in a 60.
I mean, Hamling's had his front lights on the whole race, hasn't he? So
Yeah.
it's a bit hard to tell.
It's not really, you know, for Graham Hamlin there. Unfortunately, though, the only ones that struggled from that was Bekirden over Sharp because they've just lost that 5 temps that they gained. So you can see the damage of that GTP driver going through. Sharp's quicker in 1, 2 and 3, which has just negated all the work that Volker Bekirden and Graham Hamlin did over that last lap where they pulled out that 5 temps. They've now lost it again in 1 lap later. So they're going to have to go again.
Surely all bets are off now. If Hamlin thinks they're not going to catch up before the end of the race, he's going to say, right, I'm going to challenge for second. And you know, because if we're not going to catch him anyway, why let the position go freely to Volkan Bekirden?
Can he? That's the thing. Can he, Gwilym Hamlin, catch Bekirden and get through? As Pierce is in YouTube chat saying, evening, I didn't have you down as a flasher. That's Pina on the right-hand side. Pina again on the right-hand side on that one. I'm not Piercy. I'm just saying, you know, my lights are always... I've got automatic lights on my car, so I go through a tunnel when they come on, and then they take ages to go back off. So at times I must look like I'm flashing. Just not in the same way that I feel you're trying to imply, Piercy, on that one.
Yeah, it's a slightly unfortunate double entendre there. But anyway... Hamlin continuing to circulate just 3 tenths now behind Volkan Bekirden, as he has for much of ever since they came out the pits road together. He's stuck to him like glue essentially, and Volkan Bekirden just simply can't get rid of him. Not a great lap from Kieran Sharp actually to start, because he's been closed in. It's almost Bekirden within a second of him now, as we're starting to run out of time here. We're getting into the final minute of this race, and Jamie Nuttall will be interested to see if he decides to push and force another lap on everyone else, or if he's going to end the race slightly earlier than anticipated. But Hamlin starting to throw the kitchen sink here as time's running out. So it looks like we're up for a photo finish between these 3 then, if things keep going as they are.
Yeah, that's going to be the final lap of the race here for Jamie Nuttall. He will take the final lap, which is what he has done. And a great job from him. Gwilym Hamlin, Volkan Bekirden, though, still going at each other. And now we've got Andrew Pike in YouTube chat as well. Indecent exposure. Thank you very much for that one. As Bekirden and Sharp is closer. And they've got 1 more lap again. And they've got a second to make here, Ed. Is this possible? Is this possible for Bekirden to get this back?
It's certainly possible. Whether it will happen or not is another matter. But Kieran Sharp has just got to make sure that he doesn't leave any opening. If he gets a bad exit here, then Bekirden is not going to need a second invitation, and potentially Hamlin could fly through as well. So has Kieran Sharp got the tyres? Because he did undercut, remember, so he might be struggling slightly more than the 2 behind him at this phase. As looks like Hamlin's lost a little bit of ground actually to Bekirden on that exit there.
Is there a battle between Jose and Wingarden? No. They
7 seconds, that's what's between them.
Yeah, 7 seconds apart at the moment. To be honest with you, this whole broadcast has pretty much been on these 2 cars, because they have been the closest battles on the race circuit, apart from Joaquin Pino providing some great action and spinning more times than a ballerina in Swan Lake, to be blatantly honest with you. Lifted up, Consabo's had a little bit of a moment with Miguel Ferreira. Brian Pigman's has his own little slow spin coming through Tecasio. But to be honest with you, these three
Jamie
have
Nuttall
not,
wins.
not left each other alone. Jamie Nuttall is going to come over the line. Thank you very much for that, Ed. I missed that one. As he takes the victory here in the GTP class. And it will be Wiardi Rombouts will finish in second there as well. And that was me talking about Kieran Sharp and Volker Bekirden. We nearly missed the GTP leader of Jamie Nuttall coming over the line, but he did a great job and took the victory. Volker Bekirden coming over in second. And then behind that is Consabo in finishing in third in the GTP class. What's going on down here? Well, Kieran Sharp has only got half a second, and Volker Bekirden's there, and Gwilym Hamlin's there. So, this could be a last interesting dive into Casio. What do you reckon?
Yeah, look, Bekirden really pushing on the exit of a spoon curve there. Hamling a little bit too far back for a dive of his own. This is going to need a good exit from 130R and a late braking maneuver into the Casio triangle from Volkan Bekirden. But I think Sharp might just have the edge here. It's going to be too risky for Bekirden, surely.
Oh, it's going to be Kieran Sharp. It is going to be Sharp coming out. Bekirden will take the second place. Gwilym Hamlin in third. It is as they were. 1, 2, 3. But there is a little bit of a conversation I want to have with Mr. Sharp if he comes into the booth about the start of the race. Jose Monteguedo and Quinton Wingarden. Wingarden comes over the line. Monteguedo comes over the line. And then you've got Thomas Kana in the Mercedes, who had his own problems, and Marcio Lopez, who also had his own process as well. I know Suzuka could chew tyres, but a 45-minute run, will you be really changing tyres? No, they won't. You generally get to about 60 minutes, and then you think about changing tyres. But at the moment, you would not change tyres in
especially
a 45-minute
in GT3,
race.
yeah.
Not a chance on that one. It would not happen.
Do you notice, by the way, Tom Davidson, lap down, just waiting at the start line to see if Sharp won the class or not? His teammates, a lovely touch there. But luckily he disappeared before they came up behind him.
Yeah, he's got some... Come on, Marcio Lopez, bro. Does
He's out of fuel.
Yeah, he does. Just about there for Marcio Lopez. Let's bring you up the results of the race. Jamie Nuttall is your winner. Wiardi Rombouts in second. Gurgley Consabo in third. Then you got Brian Pigmans in fourth with Will Bradford in fifth. Tom Davidson lap down but finishes in sixth. Kieran Sharp takes a win with Volker Bekirden in second and Gwilym Hamlin in third in the GT3s. That's literally as they were. Then Timo Osted in ninth place. Quinton van Wingarden in 11th. Jose Monteguedo in 12th. Thomas Kana in 13th. Marcio Lopez in 14th. Then you got Liam Giles, Mav Gardner, Miguel Ferreira, 4 laps down. These are all drivers here. And Pedro Campos on that one. There was a couple of DNFs in behind. Patrick Eden, Joaquin Pino, I think may have just about finished, to be blatantly honest with you. Patrick Eden, Jose Antonio Franci, Patrick Dean, Blankensteiner, Matteo De Luca, Yanko the Hot Dog, and Melandolozi Gambushi did not take to the start. Was it a classic? No. Was there great racing from the GT3s? Absolutely. Traffic management from the GTPs? Definitely. But let's bring one, Mr. Kieran Sharp. Oh, I can't bring him into the booth. Why can I not? Yeah, Kieran.
Did Kieran not give you permissions, James?
No, I can't. I haven't got
I can do it. I can do it.
Oh, get out.
Oh, no, I can't, actually.
No,
I thought I could.
I was going to say you can't do that. Do you know why that is, though? That's because our permissions are lower than his.
Oh, he's got to do it himself then. Do you want me to message him? Or?
No, I'm in the middle of doing that now. Jump in, we can't move you. So there we go. So we'll wait for Kieran Sharp to come and jump in on that one. That's partly because our permissions are lower than his, and we'll have a chat with him if he sees this in the meantime, of course. Mr. Kieran Sharp, welcome into the booth, dear sir. How are you?
Sweating.
Yeah, now listen, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, right? First off, the start of the GT3s. Did you or did you not jump earlier than what we were expecting you to jump? Because is the rules you go green when the GTPs go, or you go green when you cross the line?
green when it goes green for everyone. So when GTPs go, we go.
That's where that's how you managed to jump in at the beginning then. And then lost it through the race once there was a little back marker getting involved.
Yeah, I was a bit annoyed about that. I was expecting to go slow, but then not in the middle, out of the corner. So that threw me off a bit. I knew I couldn't get Vulcan on pure pace this week, so I had to do something different. And I was fuel saving a lot, and I underfueled a bit to jump him, and I had to save more after as well.
Yeah, and then jumped him in the pit stops, partly because Begidon was 3 seconds. Well, as you say, if you underfueled, that'd be why. Then he pressurised you all the way to the end of the race there, bud.
Yeah, it was one more traffic moment away from being back with me. If GCP passed me a bit awkwardly, or another back marker troubled me, he could easily have tried to pass me again. So yeah, I had to just keep it clean.
Yeah, you definitely did on that one. They did pull you into about half a second as well until a GTP went through, and then it went back out to about a second to 1.1. I think that's probably where the saviour come from on that one. What do we think going forward, Kieran? We're off to my favourite circuit next week at Interlagos. How are you going to cope there?
It's a track I like, but I don't think I'm all too good at. So we'll have to see.
We'll have to see. All right, bud. Well, is there anyone you want to shout out before we let you go?
Just to everyone turn up. This is our second iRacing league now, and it's not the easiest to start a whole nother league along with something else. And it's it's looking good out there.
Definitely is. Kieran, thank you so much for joining us there, bud. You'll have to pop yourself out. Our permissions are lower than yours. We can't move you. Partly because you're boss man and we're not.
All right, yeah, see you guys later.
Right, next up in the booth here is come and joined us is Weari Rombal, second in the GTP class, up one place for the day. And we'll bring him in to the booth. There you go. Weari is in with us. Weari, welcome in, buddy. How are you?
Hello, I'm good.
How was it out there?
Pretty chill to be fair.
It looked it looked pretty chilled once you all got a little bit more spread out as well. Did you think Nuttall and Davidson had a little bit of a moment that allowed everybody to move forward a place there? Did you think you can get Jamie Nuttall?
At the start, yes, but then some GT3s decided to build a wall right in front of me, so I lost 5 seconds there.
All right. Did they decide to build a wall, Weari, or were they just racing?
I guess they were racing.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think they got the builder out in the back there and started knocking up some fences for you. You know what I mean? Let's be real about it, bud. But listen, it was interesting. What do we think going forward in Interlagos? That's going to be a different kettle of fish, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a fun track, and I've always done pretty well there. So.
Well, we'll see how you get on. We're already on that one, but congratulations on your second place, dear sir. Anyone you want to shout out before we let you go?
I guess my team, really.
All right, man.
They always support me.
Okay, awesome job. Weari, thank you so much for joining us there, buddy, and look forward to seeing you next week at Interlagos.
Yeah.
Take care, man. All right, there you go. Weari Rombouts is come and join us on that one. As we said, not a classic by any shape of the imagination, but should set us up nicely going forward into next week at Interlagos.
Oh, absolutely. And it means we've essentially got two new championship leaders in Jamie Nuttall and Vulcan Bakid, and also redemption for Kieran Sharp, or at least for his internet connection after it let him down at Spa last time out while he was running in P2, wasn't it? So yes, it's certainly great to see. And Sharp really had, like you said, he didn't quite have the pace, but he was able to just pull it out there. And interesting description from Riardi of the GD3 wall. It did feel like that at times, that there was a couple of interesting rejoins from the circuit while people were desperately trying to get out of the way or not seeing the GDPs in time in a couple of instances. But for the most part, relatively clean, which is why there wasn't a whole lot of action. It must be said, especially GDP was a bit of a walkover. But for Tom Davidson, he did get to the end in 6th. For the man now second in the points for that 6th place could well come in handy when we get to the end of the season then. So it always shows you've got to keep going even if you're a lap down having pit for repairs.
Yeah, there you go, guys. That's going to wrap this one up. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody in YouTube chat, of course. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on the bells, regardless of you're on TSRC or whether or not you're on the JBB YouTube channel. But for now, guys, I've been James Parfitt. I've been alongside Edward Hunter, and as always, take care, have a great week, and you never know, we might see you on a track sometime. Good night.